Let's head over to senior reporter Aviwe Mtila, who's now loaded up on coffee and energy drinks. Why? Because you thought part one was hefty, Aviwe. Part two of the state capture report, also quite a lot of reading to get through. Not exactly bedtime stories. So take us through what you've picked up so far, because SOEs seems to be the stuff of nightmares, according to the report, doesn't it?
Certainly does. Not bedtime story, but definitely interesting reading. 646 pages, and 506 of those pages focused squarely on Transnet, while the rest 140 pages focused on Denel. When it came to Transnet, it said that three senior officials, including former Public Enterprises Minister Malusi Gigaba, should be investigated for a string of corruption, basically, that ranges from corruption, racketeering, fraud, and corruption. Those officials, of course, are Brian Molefe, the former CEO of Transnet, Anoj Singh, the former CFO, as well as Siyabonga Gama, the former CEO. All of them, of course, central to their appointment was Malusi Gigaba. Another one that's quite interesting is how Gama got to be brought back, especially after having to step down from the CEO position because of a litany of allegations that could possibly see him dismissed back in 2009. But we hear in the reports that ANC veterans such as Jeff Khatebe, as well as Gwede Mantashe, were instrumental in basically calling him to be reinstated back as CEO, even though he was facing those charges. Remember, Gwede Mantashe at the time was the Secretary General of the African National Congress. But when it came to these three senior officials, Molefe, Singh, and Gama, the report in itself says that they're the primary architects and implementers of state capture at Transnet. In fact, I just want to read some of how it summarizes their efforts in state capture. It says that they accepted cash bribes at the Gupta family compound. They broke the PFMA Act numerous times. They misled Transnet's board about a multi-billion rand locomotive contract. They also deviated from National Treasury procurement laws, as well as mismanaged Transnet finances with unjustified price increases. Of course, those example of that price increases would come in the purchase of those locomotive 3 procurements that we do understand for 1,259 locomotives at the tune of more than 60 billion. One that stands out is around 1,064 locomotives that were purchased to the tune of 54 billion rand. We do understand initially Transnet had budgeted 38 billion rand to purchase these locomotives, but all of a sudden that then ballooned and was increased by 16 billion rand to that tune. So those recommendations coming in saying that criminal investigations should take place for those three senior officials, as well as former Public Enterprise Minister Malusi Gigaba.
And I imagine, Aviwe, just before I say goodbye to you, what's going to annoy a lot of South Africans, possibly the NPA, also those involved in fighting state capture, is the big name that you've mentioned, as well as the Guptas out the country, and seemingly not very much can be done as far as investigations and prosecutions are concerned.
Not much done at this stage, even when I spoke to the NPA just yesterday, in terms of how these reports are coming and what they've done so far. They're telling me that there's a task team that's been set up at this stage, but really the real teeth we'll see only at the end of February. It's just alarming just to see how state capture operated. You look at Denel, for example, and how it was performing well back from 2011 till 2015, making profits even, one of internationally recognized companies. In 2015, they reached 88% of their targets. Board very impressed with the CEO, Reyes Saluji. But when the new Public Enterprise Minister, Len Brown, came in, we saw that whole board basically sacked, and only one executive left there. That saw then what we now know as the demise of Denel, which has basically been brought down to its knees. So an arrangement basically that kept on happening, crept up at state capture, where if these senior executives weren't wanting to be part of state capture per se, they'd be booted out at the expense of the company itself, at the expense of the future of the company and the employees. So that very example will be evident at this very moment with Denel.
And Aviwe Mtila, we're going to continue letting you finish off your litres and litres of coffee as you continue to go through what is a part 2 of the state capture report as we dig out more of that. Aviwe back with us later in the day.